Yo ho ho! Hello everyone, this is Nellis Geek, and I'm here today with a special episode because I don't do Christmas, I'm an artist, remember? But I have to talk to you about my absolute favorite Christmas book ever, Terry Pratchett's The Hogfather. Now, let me put this book down because holding it up in camera is lame. What's The Hogfather? The Hogfather is a Discworld novel. Discworld is a series by the British author Terry Pratchett that is a lot of books long. And this is the 20th in the series, and there are plenty more, believe me. The Hogfather is a Christmas story within his fantasy world, the Discworld. The Discworld is a disc that is upon four elephants who stand on a huge tortoise that is floating in space. Because it's a comical fantasy series, and you have to be absurd. The novels are not a series of novels. Every novel is standalone, but it expands on storylines and has recurring characters. And there are two characters that appear in every novel in Discworld, and these two are Death and the Librarian. The Librarian is an orangutan. Don't ask why. He is a librarian in the University of Magic who became an orangutan because of a freak accident in the second book. And he remains an orangutan because it fits him better, because wizards are out there. And in this novel, the protagonist is Death. He doesn't do a cameo. He's a protagonist. He is one of the main characters in Discworld, because in Discworld there are sub-series within the series where there's a different protagonist in each of them, and they have their own series. I mean, Hogfather is the 20th novel in the series, and also the fourth Death novel. The first Death novel was Mort, the fourth in Discworld. So yes, it gets complicated. I should probably do a how to read Discworld video sometime, because I really love Terry Pratchett and his books, and I haven't read all of them, of course. So I can only reading Discworld can be a bit tricky because of the different series. You can grab this book on its own and right off the shelf, read it, and you probably get almost everything. But having read the other books really gives perspective on how everything ties, as well as make some of the jokes even better, because Terry Pratchett's books are very funny. Terry Pratchett has a very unique writing style. He has those footnotes in his books that they go out there. I mean, let me find something that's funny here. Just a random example, so I don't know if it's funny or not. But despite the decorations put up inexpertly by Igor the barman to show willing, Beers was not a family place. That's a pub, I guess. And there is, in the Wheeling, there is an asterisk. And he'd done his best, but black and purple and vomit yellow weren't a good color combination for paper chains, and no Hogwarts fairy doll would be nailed up by its head. So he does these side notes, sort of like, The Princess Bride, where somebody explains something and all the stuff. There are these side notes that don't break the narrative, but you go there and it's funny most of the time. And he's got a very British style of humor. He's very sarcastic. He gets the dialogues great. The characters are great. They're very unique, very distinct. They have their own voices, their own gimmicks that make them funny. I mean, Death always speaks in capital letters, and on certain novels there is the Death of Rats. That's a rat in Death's hood who always says squeak in capital letters, which is funny, and the jokes build upon each other. That's why they work. So much of the humor is in the dialogue, and there is also the fantasy stuff that build over time. Another character in this novel is Susan. She is Death's granddaughter, sort of, but I'll have to spoil more to explain this. It's this girl who works as a governess, and she beats up the boogeymen that threaten the children of the household she's working in, because unlike most adults, she can still see those monsters, those fairies and goblins and ghouls and stuff, because most adults learn to ignore them. But since she's lived in Death's domain for years, she retains the ability to see the supernatural. And, that's interesting. That's an interesting idea that is seen very often in Terry Pratchett's novels. It's a cornerstone of his world building, that people choose to ignore the magic and supernatural because they're dumb, basically. There's another main character in this novel, Teatime, which is spelled T-Time, but he says no, it's Teatime, and he's a member of the Guild of Assassins, and he gets a contract to kill abstract ideas, like the Tooth Fairy and like the Hogfather. The Hogfather is the Santa Claus of this world. He travels the Hogsmeade, the Christmas of Discworld, and gives gifts. And since Teatime injures him, Death has to deliver the gifts so that the sun will rise after the winter's longest night, because it's a ritual. Hogfather has to deliver the gifts so the sun will come up the next day. So yes, you get a lot of fantasy and high stakes in this novel too, because that's Terry Pratchett. It's fun and funny, and it's based on characters and them saying dumb stuff and arguing about stupid stuff and side notes, but there's always a big third act, a big stake for the characters to fight for. And that makes his novels so good. They're, most of the time, they're fantasy novels that are very funny. And also they're a satire. They're sort of like, if you've read comics, it's sort of like Asterix. Does the same thing. They get all of contemporary stuff, they put them in a fantasy setting and poke fun at it. And it's hilarious. This novel is hilarious. And there are two things I remember distinctly about this, because I've read it back in April 2012. As I've said again, I'm a nihilist. I don't do Christmas, but... And what's more Christmassy than reading Christmas books during Christmas? No, you read Christmas books in Easter. That's how you do it. Thank you. So, I remember two things. Thing number one I remember is that towards the end of the novel, there is a page and a half that pretty much takes the idea behind Neil Gaiman's American Gods, or vice versa. I'm not sure who wrote what first, and I know that Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman worked together for Good Omens. So he restates the premise behind the deeper meaning behind American Gods, and within a page and a half delivers this idea, this meaning, and also builds upon it, and manages to state it clearer, at least for me, manages to be clearer about it. And that's really impressive, because Neil Gaiman is a great author too, and that says something about Terry Pratchett. He has an amazing prose and a great maturity in his themes. He passed away in 2015. That's the same, really. He has a great idea for this stuff. There are phrases in Terry Pratchett's work that are just amazing. They're just reflections of the human condition. He could be a philosopher, but he became a fantasy author, and a good one. And the second thing I remember is the ending, because there is a part towards the ending, and I mean the horse, of course, for those who've read this novel, that will make you cry. I'm serious. It's a very touching scene that is exactly what you would expect from a Christmas special. And that's a Christmas special for Discworld. There's also a TV adaptation, a long TV movie or a miniseries, can't remember exactly, called The Hogfather, that came out lots of years ago. And it's very fun. It's a very good adaptation, and it's a great Christmas movie to watch. I recommend it, of course, but the book is better. The book is always better, and just look at it. Just look at this merry mayhem of color and weird characters and stuff, and a skeleton as well as a skeleton in a Santa Claus suit, and all those people around, and this mayhem, and yes, the back. That's a great. I love these covers. Unfortunately, not all my Terry Pratchett books have covers like that, because I was buying what was available, and I have some of those black, very serious covers that used to do some decades ago. No, that's Terry Pratchett. That's the Terry Pratchett you should read. That's the Terry Pratchett cover you should read, and it tells you everything about how amazing he is. So the Hogfather is a recommend. The entire Discworld is a recommend, except for certain novels. But never mind that. I'll probably have to do a how to read Discworld video. I can give you one hint right now. Don't read the first book. Start with Mort, or the pyramids. Go to book 6, 4, 6, and go on from there. Because the first two, the first 3, and the 5th are so. And avoid the Rincewind novels. If you want to if you want my opinions, leave a comment below if you've read The Hogfather, and if you liked it or not. If you're a fan of Terry Pratchett, of course, I'd love to hear you. And I should probably get back to reading his novels, because I have slacked off. I haven't read one of his books for quite some time. Didn't recall which is the next one to read. Let me check out. Yes, the next book to read is probably Zingo. The right next in the series of Discworld. Or have I read Zingo? Can't recall. Never mind. If you have a favorite Christmas book, please leave it below, and I'll see you soon with another video. Happy holidays!